Hello, listeners. Welcome to this week's Football-Oranje podcast, which will serve mostly this week as a preview to the Ajax versus Manchester United game, the final of the Europa League. We're on SoundCloud, YouTube, iTunes to listen and download. Give us a like. Don't forget to subscribe to Football-Oranje. Enjoy. So we've had some questions on Twitter about the game, and one of the questions was relating to the starting lineup and who you think should play between Lasse Schöne or Donny van der Beek in the defensive midfield role. Could you give reasons for either the two players playing, and perhaps any surprises you think in the starting 11?
Yeah, I think very recently, sort of, Lasse Schöne, he's sort of failed to control games, physically impose himself. He's always very good in tight spaces, but I think so. Donny van der Beek gives you more sort of mobility, more sort of strength, and someone that could shield the back four better. And he's also become much better at getting involved and demanding play in the tight areas. I think Buzz is going to stick with Lasse Schöne, but I think if he picks Donny van der Beek, it will still be a good decision, because I think there was times in the Europa League campaign I would have picked sort of either Van der Beek or Jaron Riedewald for some more physicality in front of the defense, especially against the teams where in the away games where the game opens up a little bit, and you need someone just to sort of have control. And even when Donny van der Beek hasn't played well, hasn't been technically good from an attacking aspect, he's always sort of well involved defensively, made some tackles, but and it would be easy to see why Buzz would pick him based on recent form, but I fully expect Lasse Schöne to start.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think experience will come out over talent here. I think Bosch been smart go with Lasse Schöne from the starting lineup, and Schöne also offers a threat from set pieces as well. I know Ziyech will mostly take the free kicks, but Lasse Schöne scored a couple in big games as well. Think back to the one that they won against Feyenoord. Lasse Schöne pinged a free kick in the top corner from 30 yards. He has that aspect to his game. I think from next season we'll see a lot more of Donny van der Beek, but from this game it'll definitely be Lasse Schöne from the start.
Yeah, I agree with you, Michael. The experience factor is key, and there's a similar situation at fullback, for example, where you've got Joel Veltman over Kenny Tete, and Tete's had a good season when he's played, but Bosch has sort of been loyal to Veltman as he's been a great servant to the team. He's 25, he's looking for a move abroad, and arguably a lot of the hype has been a bit overrated for Veltman. He's not made major mistakes, but he's not the best right back that Ajax have, and I think the experience will be key again in him playing in the starting 11.
I agree with you. I would pick Lasse Schöne above Donny van der Beek. I think experience is going to be key in a one-off final. Lasse Schöne has a lot of experience in and around Ajax, having played for them since 2012, so he knows how everything works. And I just think they're going to have to go for experience, because I think it's going to be a very long game. I don't think it's going to be a final where I have a feeling it's not going to be settled in 90 minutes. And I think with Schöne's experience, and also having played almost 150 times for Ajax, you've got an old head on shoulders that may be able to help younger players in and around him in certain situations that may occur in a final. So I would choose Lasse Schöne instead of Donny van der Beek in that respect.
I think when you say your obviously experience is going to be key, it's quite strange to think that Joe Veltman's a centre back by trade, and he could move into centre back, and Tete could play as well. When you think that Matthijs de Ligt will probably start the game being a 17-year-old, if you want to go for more experience, you could put Veltman or Riedewald in the middle and then move Tete out right, and then that shoots up the average age of the defence, because De Ligt's only 17. You'd have Veltman and Sanchez in there. More experienced Tete on the right, or on the left, Sinkgraven or Riedewald.
Do you not think then, though, that you're mixing up the defence a bit too much and you've got players playing slightly out of position because Veltman's become the right back, he's adjusted there, and you've got another player filling in at left back. Is that not just putting square pegs and round holes in the final?
I think Chaka, on you go.
Yeah, I think Veltman, I'm one person that thinks that he's done quite well at right back, but I think he's sort of weaker against the sort of quicker wingers, and once he gets that yellow card, he's always walking a tightrope. So I think moving him into centre back would be quite hasty. I think if you prefer Kenny Tete, especially with the wide players that Manchester United have, and I think I'm one person that doesn't have any reservations about De Ligt playing centre back. He conceded a penalty in the last game. He had that problem with the Dutch national team, but I think he's got a very good head on his shoulders, and I think in terms of the defense is going to change because the team will be without Verheven and Sinkgraven. I'm not sure if he's fit or not. So there is going to be a massive change. So I think if it was sort of a situation where you had Riedewald at left back, I think that Riedewald, De Ligt, Davison Sanchez, and Veltman or Tete, I think that will be probably the chosen back four, or sort of. But I don't expect Veltman to move into centre back. But I think I have a lot of faith in De Ligt, and I think this game wouldn't be too early for him, and I think he could show a lot in this game.
And a manager such as Jose Mourinho might sort of target De Ligt's weaknesses as well, and really sort of play on that, because he's very young. He's gonna make mistakes.
I think if Manchester United had Zlatan Ibrahimovic to start, I would have said you gotta go for experience. But I think with sort of the way that De Ligt is as a centre back and the players that Manchester United are gonna put up front, you sort of De Ligt wouldn't be out muscled by them. He's very strong, very good at winning the ball in the higher positions. Also quite quick on his feet. So it's a game against opponents that would favor him in some sort of role. Against Manchester United, you wouldn't want to sort of get him into a physical battle unless Mourinho uses Fellaini in that sort of fashion. But I think if they sort of played Martial or Rashford up front, I think De Ligt would remedy them very well.
And that's going to be the key aspect for defence, is how it's going to be a very pacey Man United attack with Martial probably and Rashford through the middle. That shouldn't be too much of a problem when you think that Sanchez and De Ligt both have pace in the middle, and I think that will hopefully nullify the Manchester United attack. The only real issue is Chaka said that Veltman always gets himself into a bit of a tight spot by getting the yellow card early on, and then how does he come up against, say, a Lingard or a Martial on the right with a yellow card for, say, 50 minutes?
And they'll be squaring up against a Man United team that are known for having a strong defence. They had, I believe it was 25 or 26 games unbeaten in the Premier League, but obviously there was a lot of draws in that. Do you think that they have the capability to beat Ajax, because they're a good team, but at times this season they've been very dry in attack, not really creating enough chances, similar to a Louis van Gaal team?
Personally, from my point of view, being based here in Amsterdam, when you look at how the British press are approaching this game, that Manchester United only have to turn up to win, I think if you look at Manchester United have played in the Europa League so far this season with difficulties with Celta Vigo in the second leg, and also with playing Anderlecht in the quarter-final, they need to be aware of the threat that Ajax pose, and it's going to be completely different to what they've faced in the Premier League, because you're playing a European competition final, which is a game within itself. And I think United are going to have to work very hard throughout the entire game in order to lift the trophy. I don't think it's simply a case of what the British press believe it to be, which is, Man United are just playing Ajax, they'll win the Europa League, that's that. This is a game where Ajax are going to be fully aware of the occasion they're going to be playing. And I think Manchester United are in for a real game.
I think sort of with Manchester United, it's like man-orientated markets. It's something that Ajax are used to, and something that Ajax can sort of manipulate, especially with the movement of Klaassen and Ziyech in between the lines. It's just a matter of how Ajax go about finishing the chances that created the most chances in the Europa League this season. They've got the highest, the player with the highest amount of dribbles in the Europa League. Both Traore and Dolberg have scored their fair share of goals in the Europa League. So it's just a matter of being able to put the chances away. And once, if they manage to, if they're clinical, then they can win this game. But if sort of they fall into Mourinho's trap of being wasteful, leaving the Suns very open at the back with such a pacey United attack, and that's what United are good at. They're sort of good at getting on other teams where they make mistakes. And Ajax also have to be very good at defending set pieces. And if there's anyone that could sort of close this overtly attacking Ajax team down, it's Jose Mourinho. But you sort of have faith in Ajax because the way they press the ball, the intensity with which they move the ball, people say it's like a German team, and they've had a lot of rest, and if they sort of can match the tempo that they've reached this season against other teams, and they're not taken by the occasion as they have been away from home, you would fully back them. But more experienced teams to this point in the Europa League haven't been a problem for them when they've played, but it's all about how clinical they are on the day, especially which Younes and which Traore shows up.
I think what I've seen from Man United this season in this competition and in the Premier League is they don't like teams to go at them. Struggle to break down teams when they sit back, but they really don't like a team to really go at them. Swansea did it recently. Celta Vigo did it in the second leg near the end. They went at them. Anderlecht, they struggled with them as well. I think if Ajax play like they did in the first leg, the home legs against Schalke and Lyon, get in their faces from the start, hustle them down, don't let them have any time on the ball, get the first chance, take it. It puts all the pressure on Man United, they might crumble, and I think that's really, Ajax have a great chance, but it really just depends on how they set up. If they set up to go straight at Man United from the start, hassle them, get in their faces, that's the way to go forward, and that's the way to unsettle this Manchester United side.
That's right, and I think it's the performances against Schalke and Lyon showed that they can take anyone on, and their attack is going to be more vital than defending because it's where they play. If they can take the chances, and if players such as Hakim Ziyech and Lasse Schöne can create things from deep, then there's going to be lots of chances for them to try and take. I don't think Man United will be able to handle that. They've not really played too many teams in the Premier League that all play with such an open style to really try and intensely break them down. I think the pace would be too much for them. As a key man for me, as I was just saying, there must be Hakim Ziyech because of the way he plays, and he can create a chance from any sort of angle. He'll put a pass over, he can cross. He's good at from set pieces. He can even he's got a shot on him himself. I think that United will struggle to deal with him.
I think definitely. I think they won't really know what to expect from some of these Ajax players, and I think that's the they obviously scouted him intensely, but I think the surprise factor as well, if they get Eunice on the ball early on, if they get Traore running at them, unsettling the defenders, it's not going to be their first choice defence as well, because Eric Barry's suspended for the match, so it'll be Blind and maybe Jones or Smalling in the centre. You've got Dolberg running around, movement everywhere, pulling them apart. Then Eunice and Traore around. Then Ziyech's going to be the man that's going to pick up the space around that. This depends what he does with the space. In the second leg against Leon, for me, Ziyech was the player that I was most disappointed with, because in the second half especially, he was getting chances around the box. He kept trying to play it too intricately. He had chances to shoot, he had chances to set up power plays. He just tried to do a bit too much. So I think if he keeps it basic when he gets the ball, if he gets a chance to shoot, because it's going to be Romero and goal, it's not De Gea, second choice goalkeeper, get on the box, take shots, take chances. Hopefully he'll get him goals.
This team is a very talented team, then. No one can deny that. And everyone's starting to, notice this Ajax side now that they've got so far in the Europa League. But I want to relate this to a question we got. Is this going to be the start of a new golden generation for Ajax? And, or is this going to be when they leave and, will they go on and do spectacular things? Was this run just a one-off? How good are these players?
I certainly do not think it's a flash in the pan. If you look at young Ajax, who play in the Europa League, they finished second behind VVV Venlo with 67 points, playing in a league which has teams like Volendam, NAC Breda, Almere City, Cambuur Leeuwarden. So the young players playing for young Ajax are getting ready experience-wise to make the step up, and it's like a conveyor belt of talent which is coming through. And you also have to credit Peter Bos for giving the young players like Matthijs de Ligt an opportunity to play in the first team, and that's his confidence is rewarded. I think with the approach that the club has now, with the current manager they have and the squad they have and their dedication to youth, I think you'll see Ajax become more prominent in Europe in terms of making progression quite regularly, whether it's in Champions League or in Europa League. If you compare that under the years of Frank de Boer, where they only really appeared to make up the numbers, and when they were playing important games like Steaua Bucharest in the knockout phase or Dnipro in the Europa League, and they failed on those accounts, I think there's more togetherness in this instance, and I think they've found a formula, and you can only credit Mark Overmars and Van der Sar and Peter Bos and the whole club coming together to look forward, because obviously after Frank de Boer's departure there was always rumours as to where do they go from here, and they seem to have found themselves back in a formula which is tried and trusted, where you give young players an opportunity to show their worth and give them confidence to play their own game, and that will help the club move forward in the future.
Yeah, I don't think there's a flash in the pan. I always think the talent that everybody's seeing now is just the tip of the iceberg, because, Cassia hasn't played for young Ajax yet. You have players like Frankie de Jong, Nori, who are still to come in. And 9 players have made their debuts this year. Karel Eiting is still there. And there's still, players are on loan like Zivkovic, who you don't know what Ajax are going to sort of do with them. And I think I'll hold praise on Mark Overmars till the end of the summer, because his job is to sort of allow the Veltmans and the Carsons to leave, because they've got ready-made replacements within the squad. But his job is to prevent an exodus and to sort of keep most of this team together, so they can, bring in some new parts and sort of have another go at Europe and the Eredivisie. And Peter Bosz sort of, being courageous enough to clear out some of the players that were so important to Frank de Boer's system the season before, was and to move Sinkraven and Lasse Schöne into different positions, and to give Onana and Dolberg regular game time, and they played most of the season, has been so important, and Ajax at the end of the season they lost the title on the final day again, but there's a much different feeling on the club because of the way the season's panned out, the way the season's been handled. So I think the main thing is just to keep players like Sanchez, Ziyech, Tete, Riedewald, Dolberg at least for another season, because and add on to that, especially in the summer, and add good players and not make missteps in the transfer window as they have in recent years during the under Overmars' auspices. So I don't think this is a flash of the pan, and I think everyone's going to see more high class, very talented players, prodigious players coming through the tournaments in the coming years.
I totally agree with Chaka and James. I think this is just right. I think it actually gets better from here, because I actually think there's some players coming through that are stronger than the ones that are actually in the first team now. I think if you took out Lasse Schöne, you put in Van de Beek, you take out David Klaassen next season, you put in Nuri, who's exceptional for his age, and his technique is potentially world class. This team can only get better. Still young, more to play under boss next season. We're also going to get stronger. Like Delict's going to get older and more wise. Kluivert on the left, if he comes in for Eunice or a regular next season, he's only going to get better and better. And God forbid that Kasper Dolberg leaves. There's players in the academy coming through. Kai Sierhuis, he's now a striker that scores 20, 30 goals for the Ajax academy. He's coming through. Raydan, an under-17 striker that was went to Manchester United recently. We've got so many talents coming through right now that there's no way this can be a flash in the pan. And I think the way Peter Bosz has got the side organised and the way the club's just run at the moment, the future's only bright, I think, for this club.
Yes, some very good points, and I can only echo those sentiments because they have so many talents. Dolberg up front, I'm sure he will stay. And you've got De Jong and Van der Beek coming in midfield, and whenever they do come off the bench for an injury or whatever, they've performed very, very well, excellently, and more than adept for the Eredivisie level. But for the Champions League, can they keep these kind of players if they do win the Europa League? Or would it change if they didn't and they didn't qualify for the Champions League group stage and they were going to the qualifiers instead? Would it change the futures of players such as Hakim Ziyech or such as Kasper Dolberg, etc., Davinson Sanchez as well? Would that change their futures?
Sort of Hakim Ziyech and Dolberg have sort of been the ones to come out and say, Ziyech said, I really hope this team can stay together for at least a year, and Dolberg, he didn't really commit to Ajax, but he said he wouldn't be ready to go to one of the Manchester clubs, and he would prefer to stay at Ajax. So the players want to stay, but I think with sort of seeing, I don't think they would base their futures on one game, and I think sort of if Ajax can keep some of these players till we're talking about end of August, Champions League qualifiers. If they don't sell during the summer and they don't win the Europa League and they manage to get to the playoff stage, I think if they manage to keep the players to the end of the summer, I think they will have them for at least another season. You worry about someone like Davinson Sanchez, who already had a lot of interest in him and has won so many. This is going to be his second continental title in a year if Ajax wins. So I think you worry about sort of him and clubs coming in for him. But you, with the likes of Dolberg, you hope that clubs are sort of looking at the same situations that Memphis Depay and Vincent Janssen were, and being able to give sort of a player more time, and especially Vincent Janssen, because it's sort of a similar situation, because it's also been Dolberg's first year. He's had good spells and he's had bad spells, and he needs to really sort of clean up some facets of his game. And if he stays at Ajax, and he's willing to stay at Ajax to do that, and if he does, I think he's a better player for it in a year. So you hope the club see that, and because Dolberg certainly sees that. But I don't think not qualifying for the Champions League, but still getting to the Europa League, I don't think it would have a massive effect on Ajax. But if you're talking about sort of, class and development, they of course would like to, they're 24, 25, they would like to move to the higher level, and they've been around the Ajax team, the first team set up for a while, so, and they have every right to go and challenge themselves at a higher level, and it's better for everybody if they do that. But I think some of the younger players, they'll sort of be looking around and things like that. And Hakim Ziyech is a very interesting one, because, he had 2 great seasons at FC Twente, and no club looked to sign him, and Ajax only signed him on a deadline day. So I think it will be interesting to see if clubs then come in for him, and which particular clubs come in for him, because he's proved that he can do it at a higher level, but clubs were very wary about him last summer, and it depends, and it's really interesting to see if they will be interested in him this summer, given what he's done at Ajax in the past season.
I think both Hakim Ziyech and Kasper Dolberg in particular are both fully committed to Ajax. You have to remember, as Chaka just said, Ziyech signed on the last day of the transfer window last summer. Also, when he signed, he was extremely happy to sign for Ajax. He was completely, during his unveiling, reiterating the fact that I want to play for this club. I'm delighted to play for this club. I want to show my worth. And I don't necessarily think he's going to give that up after one season. I think he's going to be motivated to continue. I think he is aware of what happened before with clubs showing an interest like Sampdoria when he was at FC Twente and things not coming to fruition. So I think I can definitely see him staying with Ajax. The same goes for Kasper Dolberg. It wasn't so long ago that he played for Silkeborg in Denmark, and he's made so much progression so quickly that I even think that if Dolberg is to leave, that it will be stipulated in his contract by Ajax that he's allowed to return on loan by that new club. But that we just have to wait and see what will happen. In the case of Joel Veltman, he's been touted for many years as someone who could make the step. But you see what's happened to Mitchell Dijks, who went on loan to Norwich this season, who was also very promising when he was at Willem II and brought back deliberately to Ajax and found himself on loan at Norwich. So I think in the case of Joel Veltman, he's going to have to be very choosy about where he goes and be aware of the reasons why you might go somewhere and what exactly he wants to achieve. The only player I can see possibly leaving this summer would be Davinson Sanchez, because if you're linked with Barcelona and really, really big clubs, then these rumours don't appear for no apparent reason. So I think he'll also have a very good, strong part to play in the Europa League final. But my opinion would be he may well be the only one to very well leave this summer.
I think players such as Veltman, I can't really understand the Premier League fascination around him. He's a good player, but such as Dijks, a good player for Ajax's level, but doesn't have that extra level of quality, such as Sanchez, and rightfully so, being linked with Barcelona, to really push on and be a very good Premier League player. Dijks is in the Championship, and that's because his physical capabilities suit that league. He's a good player within the league, but I don't think he has the potential to play for you know what I mean, like a very top tier European club. And that's the case with the other players, and they have to look wisely at the teams that want them, and will they suit the style of play that they have. And are they a good enough player to get into the starting 11s?
I think, sorry, I was just going to say, I think it all just depends on what clubs come in and what kind of money gets offered. I think the way that this Ajax side have played in Europe will have a lot of big teams going, wow, like, who are these players? Let's have a look at them. Let's look at them more. And I think that the players that will go will be the ones like Klaas, and he'll leave. Amin Yunus, he's been linked to a return to Germany, I think. He's done well, like Leipzig want him. This depends on who wants these players. I think Ziyech, if Ajax got offered enough money, to 20 plus millions, and as a club in the Champions League, a regular big club, I think Ziyech would be tempted, even though it's just a year out. So it just depends on who comes in and what type of money is getting offered, because all these players are on big contracts as well. The only interesting thing I think is Kenny Tete. I think he's one that is annoyed by the lack of first team football he's getting. He's a good player, and for any club that picks him up this summer, if he does decide to leave, it's getting an absolute bargain, because I think he could be potentially one of the best right backs in Europe.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Tete, he's one of the reasons I'm not too hasty in sort of applauding Mark Overmars, because the reason that he's got one foot out the door is because of Mark Overmars' pride and his unwillingness to get into a room with Mino Raiola, who he's had problems in the past with, especially when Daniel Malin moved to Arsenal and Ricardo Kirchner was leaving, and Raiola caused quite a stir. And I think if Overmars has left himself in a position where he's got two right backs running out of contract and two very good right backs running out of contract, two very young right backs running out of contract. Tete's did this whole spread in Football International a few months ago, saying that he wanted to stay, he wanted to get into a room with Overmars and be able to sign a new deal, because he feels he would like to further his development. But then Overmars comes out a few weeks later and says on Fox Sports that he's probably going to go. And I think that's what sort of holds Overmars back as a technical director. And that's why this summer is so interesting to see how he can handle sort of recruiting for players that do leave, and how he can handle keeping most of the squad together. And I think if you're talking about someone like players like Tete and Riedewald leaving, they're leaving it way too early. And you see under a wrong coach that doesn't have the time to redevelop them, and they'll be in trouble, because they'll be stuck on the bench, and they'll lose key years of their development. And I think it's more beneficial for Ajax to keep them, especially if Davinson Sanchez and your development do leave. And in regards to Overmars, it's gonna be very interesting summer to see how he which players, if he manages to keep a lot of the squad together, which players he does bring in to sort of take them to that next level, or take them to someone that's going to take them to Champions League level.
I think that a lot of the players might be tempted to stay purely because of the team spirit, and you can see that with every win they're getting in Europe, the team just seems to be getting closer and tighter knit, and they really enjoy each other's company, which is great to see. An example of that is Andre Onana, who signed a new contract very recently, saying that he's very happy at Ajax and wants to stay and continue what he's doing, because he puts to bed all these rumours, and Barcelona have had him in the past, said they wouldn't want him back, and rumours such as that, and he's put an end to all of that and said, I want to stay at Ajax. But obviously not all the players will want to stay, because they're exceptional talents. And a question from the final third on Twitter asks, of his team, which player has the best chance of going to the very top?
I would say Hakim Ziyech. Personally, I think you saw in the semi-final against Lyon, especially in the first leg, how much space he managed to create with his movement. Every ball he plays is with forward intent, looking to bring the team forward on the pitch. I think I think he's had a very, very good first season, and I think if he stays and manages to progress even more, and as we mentioned earlier, when clubs didn't want to take a chance on him when he was at FC Twente, I think he'll be aware of that, and I think he'll choose his career path very carefully. But I think he has a definite chance to go all the way to the top in terms of playing for a very, very good La Liga side or Premier League side or maybe even Serie A. To go back on your point, Michael, about Premier League fascination, I would agree, not just about Premier League fascination as regards to players, but also the British press. I mean, I tweeted earlier on this afternoon about the Sunday Supplement, they were speaking about the Europa League final, and they couldn't even bring simple facts about Ajax. It was simply just with the impression of, Man United just have to turn up to win, and Mourinho is a genius for letting the Premier League form slide. I also found that quite strange from a reputable program on a big channel, that professional writers can't bring facts about a club which isn't very well known, but it's still a massive club, and I think it's quite strange at times. But CH would be my choice to go all the way to the top.
I would say David Sanchez. He's sort of perfect for this sort of the perfect defender for sort of any sort of attacking style of football. He was Juan Carlos Osorio moved him from defensive midfielder to centre back when he was with the Colombia under-20s, and they really made the most of sort of making him a sort of ball-playing, high-pressing centre back who can also recover well. And also the fact that when Atletico Nacional won the Copa Libertadores, he had the most interception, and by the time he was 19 or 20, he had been out of the first team picture before that, and in just about 2 years he managed to win 3 or 4 titles, and he's on his way to a second title, and he's only 20. So I think he's got a big future ahead of him, especially with the clubs that are looking at him. I think any manager that sort of favors a high pressing, high movement and really want a proactive defender will be looking at him. And I think he's sort of the best defender Ajax have had since Jan Vertonghen. And in his first season, he's done so much and he's risen so quickly, and that we don't even balk at the fact that Barcelona may be interested in him because he's played that well. And you can count all the bad games he's had on one hand. And I think he's sort of a defender that most clubs that who want to play a proactive style of football should be looking at. And I think with all the skills that he's already have, the way Boz has developed his game in a year, I think big clubs will soon be looking at him, and I don't doubt that he has the talent to make something of himself in a bigger league.
I totally agree with both the choice so far. I think Ziyech and Sanchez are heading to the top, but I don't see Dober going anywhere except the top as well. I mean, a young striker, he's got exceptional talent. His finishing ability can only get better winning from somebody like Dennis Bergkamp every day. His touch, his dribbling, everything he's got is high quality, and I think if he leaves Ajax, he isn't going anywhere except for a top club in a top league. Whether he maintains it there, that's up to him when he gets to that club and how they treat him there. But I think it's hard to pick one of these Ajax players that's got to go to the top, because I think a lot of them have the ability to reach it. Looking at De Ligt as well, Justin Kluivert, young, but he's got so much talent. Nuri, De Jong, Van de Beek, all these players are getting watched by Barcelona as the Manchester United in the Ajax academy. And I think a lot of them, when they leave Ajax, they will be going to top clubs, and it's what they do at those top clubs when they leave Ajax that really determine their future afterwards.
I've always been a fan of Ziyech, but in my opinion, age is against him. Any player can progress, but at the age of 24, I feel like he's near his peak, but still a very good player. One of my favourites in the Eredivisie, actually. My pick would be Andre Onana, because even at 21, fantastic goalkeeper already, and goalkeepers will get better, until they're 30, and if not better, even more afterwards. So I think he'll mature quite nicely, actually, and if he can hold a place in Ajax's first team down for 4 or 5 years, he could become one of the best European goalkeepers out there. What are your predictions for the game then, guys?
I predict Ajax with a 2-1 win. Maybe because maybe a little bit of naivety, but I really believe that Ajax have everything it takes to win this game. They have everything it takes to pin Manchester United back. And if Manchester United fall into sort of their go-to defensive shape, where they have 6 players in the back, 6 players in the back line, and relinquish that midfield superiority to Ajax, I think Ajax have what it takes to really work to break them down. And Dolberg has finished the season on some form, so I think that given the chance, he could score on the night. I think Manchester United not having Ibrahimovic is a big loss. How Ajax sort of contain Pogba will also be an interesting facet, and just Ajax being able to even create chances against some of the staunches of defenses as they've done in the Europa League. And you can't sort of coaches have sort of failed to predict how Amin Younes is such a good dribbler and how he can get into the box, and Ajax can attack in sort of every sort of way. They can attack through set pieces, they can counter attack really quickly, and they can build up really well if they're sitting in front of a sort of tight defense. So I have all the faith in them, and to be fair, they've actually got quite a staunch defense. They didn't concede more than 2 goals from the Rostov game to the game against Schalke. So that shows sort of a resilience about them that has helped them through Schalke away and Lyon away. And I think sort of just having that ability as a close-knit team, while both managers on the first season, but I feel Ajax have made greater strides as a team and as a squad. And Manchester United are still lacking in some facets, and they're missing big players. They're missing really, really big players, and that's why I think the pendulum swings to Ajax's side.
My prediction is that the match will go to extra time, and Ajax will win 3-2. I think Manchester United will underestimate this Ajax team. I think it will be a real end-to-end game. I think it will be full of excitement from beginning to end. And I just have a feeling that the game will not be settled in 90 minutes. And that's why my prediction is that Ajax will win in extra time. And I say 3-2 to Ajax.
I think, as I said earlier on, I hope that Ajax get right in Manchester United's faces from the start. I can see if they do that, they can get an early goal on the Celtic side, but I can see it being tight in the second half if Ajax start trying to sit back and defend the lead. I'm going to predict a 2-1 as well to Ajax. I think they'll just see it out in the end. I think this Ajax side is something special, and it's getting rightly the press it deserves around Europe, but I still think that people overestimate this Man United side. They've struggled in the earlier rounds. I think that they'll get caught out by this Ajax side. I think their hunger to win will be more than Manchester United, and I think they'll just see it out.
I think it will be quite an even game, unlike what the British press think it will be like. And I think Ajax will be on the front foot for a long time. and get a goal or two. But it could be up to United to try and get back into the game at some point. And I feel that in the end, the pressure might tell, and I just have a feeling that it'll go down to penalties. And then I can't call who would win penalties. But if it does, and no matter what the result, I think it's been a fantastic season for Ajax, especially in Europa League. But my worry would be, again, the defence. And I know you say, Chaka, about how they've not conceded that many goals, but I believe that if you take away if you add up the goals they conceded in the Europa League this season, just the Europa League, it's 17, and United it's been 8. So that's more than double than United conceded. And United haven't scored a considerable amount of goals less, and I believe it's roughly the same figure. I haven't counted that. But I feel like defending might be slightly an issue for Ajax, and if they're put under a bit of pressure, they will crumble, similar as they did to Schalke and Lyon. Shall we switch topics then? Shall we talk about the national team squad for the Netherlands? And there were a couple of surprises in the squad, including Groningen goalkeeper Sergio Pats. What do you guys think was like the most striking thing about the announcement?
I think De Ligt getting called up again. We need to. He's only 17, and although he's sort of reacted to his first call up well, and how that ended, he still could give more to youth teams, and if the national team really wanted to promote him, they should have moved him to under 21s or under 20s. But I think that was the biggest shock and the biggest disappointment for people, and I hope that he doesn't make it past the professional sport for his own development, because it's too much too soon for him.
I think it's the Sergio Pat is raised his eyebrows, but he has a quite half-decent reputation, especially in terms of saving penalties. It's one of the reputations he's got over here. That mostly when he had to face a penalty in league games, 9 times out of 10 he'll save it. I think with selecting 5 players from the Europa League finals in Ajax shows how far Ajax is willing to cast a net in terms of players that are performing well on European level. I'm personally pleased for Martin de Roon and also David Prupper, because I believe it with those 2 in particular, there is more to come in future. And be interesting to see. I hope Promes plays a part as well, because he'll be full of confidence since becoming champion with Spartak Moscow. So I think all in all, it's quite a decent squad that Advocaat has picked, but he's going to have to chip away at a few things and mould a few things, and then look ahead to important qualifiers against Luxembourg and France in August. So I think the squad in general, which has been picked, is one it's quite good. It's just simply a case of putting the right players in the right place and moulding a team spirit.
I totally agree with Chaka about De Ligt. I hope he doesn't make the full squad, because that might impact him not being playing the under-19 European Championships later this summer. So I hope he drops out, and then they save him for that. Just let him go on a break. They can come back for under-19 later on. I think the most exciting call-up is Nathan Ake. I think in recent weeks there's been rumours that Ivory Coast are trying to poach him from Netherlands. I think it's crucial that after we let Ziyech go, there's a couple of players that Netherlands could call up that seem to have decided on Morocco as well. Yassin Ayoub is one. He said yesterday, basically the call up never came, so with my heart I'm going to go to Morocco. Mamoun Mahi, the winger from Groningen's another one that's decided Morocco, and Sofiane Amrabat, the Utrecht midfielder as well. He's born in Holland, but represents Morocco, so I think it's tying these talents down to Netherlands. I think Nathan Ake is one that they can't afford to lose, and even if it's just a 10-minute cameo against Luxembourg near the end, I think it's very important to tie his feature down, because he's a really talented player. And it's nice to see Dario Janmaat back as well. Locadia getting another chance, and I think Ajax actually picked a pretty strong professional squad then.
Agreed. I think the most important thing for the squad is that Ake's in there and he can finally get tied down to the Netherlands and get him on for appearance, just to give another option in the centre-back role, because when, in my opinion, De Vrij and Hut aren't there, Ake would be a very good replacement. It's good to see that De Jong's not there because he didn't deserve a call-up, and instead that Jurgen Locadia has been selected in his place. So now the option's there for Locadia to make an impact in the striker's role or in the left-winger role. And him and Jermaine Lens could actually be quite a good combination. The most important thing this team needs is it needs cohesiveness, and it needs a plan. It needs structure. It needs players to play in the right positions. It needs, much like the World Cup in 2014, it had a team where they all worked together very well in their roles, and they do not want a team of individuals. Should we head on to our last topic today and talk about the Eredivisie playoffs then? There's been some in the Europa League playoffs, and there's been some in the relegation playoffs, and we're into the last round, I believe, going into the weekend. No, in the middle of week, I think midweek. Do you know, James?
Yeah.
Yes, the first leg is played on Thursday, this coming Thursday, the 25th, and the following leg is this time next week, next Sunday. The second legs were played today, where Helmond Sport drew with Rowe, and Rowe made their way to the final. They will meet MVV Maastricht, who beat Cambuur in Leeuwarden, which was quite impressive, and that will actually be a Limburgse derby between the two, and the winner over two legs will go to the Eredivisie. NSA Nijmegen had quite a good position, winning the first leg against Emmen 3-1. They won again today to book their place in the final, where they're going to play NAC Breda, who won at home to Volendam. So the playoff final fixtures are Roda against MVV Maastricht and NEC Nijmegen against NAC Breda. I think one very interesting point about both games, the second leg of both games are in case of Maastricht in Maastricht and the case of NAC Breda in Breda. And I think in both those cases, it's going to be decisive. And my early prediction is that we will see MVV Maastricht and NAC Breda in the Eredivisie next year. It will be particularly good for MVV Maastricht because they haven't been at the top level for 17 years. So it will be nice to have them back again. And I stated when the fixtures were first initially released with previous rounds that NAC Breda would get quite far with their Belgian manager Stijn Vreven. And I think that both Roda and NEC, I think they're both going to fall at the last hurdle. But I think in the case of MVV Maastricht, it will be most welcome, to get back to the highest level for the first time in 17 years, to have their stadium is only 10,000, which they managed to fill on quite on regular occasions. I just think it would be good for the league to have a different name, especially after such a long time away, and be the final legs to take place for the finals this coming Thursday and Sunday will be interesting. And only when the final whistle goes on both matches will we know who will be playing Eredivisie football along with VVV Venlo next season.
If you want a comparison, I guess, with the Bundesliga, Rode JC are almost like the Hamburg of the Eredivisie, because they tend to end up in the playoffs, but will stay up somehow. And I think, James, that point you're making about how the home leg is in the lower league side's stadium, it helps them. And Rode have had that advantage of playing the home leg second a few times now. For example, in 2013, they stayed up when they beat Sparta, if I remember correctly. Flederis got the goal, and it was at home, and that crowd really lifted them for it. And I almost think it's a bit of an unfair advantage. If you're in the playoffs, coming from an Eredivisie point of view, you deserve to have the toughest route possible to stay in the league, and give the lower league teams a chance.
I think it's as well, you could also argue that they could also restructure the league a little bit, where the bottom three teams would go down automatically, like they have in Spain, for example, and in France and in England. But I think because the promotion and relegation playoffs have been around for such a long time, and it produces excitement, I can't see them changing that. But there's always a few surprises going into the playoff final round, and this year that's MVV Maastricht, and it'll be very interesting to see what will happen.
Yeah, I think in terms of the other playoffs for the Europa League spot, I'm quite glad that the two best teams have come out on top. Heerenveen have struggled since the turn of the year, and they've been awful recently, and they get easily beaten. And Groningen as well, they got easily beaten by AZ. And I think the final versus AZ and Utrecht is going to be an interesting one. I think both teams have big summers ahead. I think both teams will go restructuring next summer. I think a lot of players are going to leave Utrecht, and some players might leave AZ as well. It's interesting to see what squads get into Europe next season. I really want to see Erik ten Hag in Europa League with Utrecht, but AZ really impressed me over the 2 legs against Groningen, and then their 18-year-old winger Calvin Stengs made a big impression. 2 games he's got 2 goals, and he's definitely one to look out for in the future.
Yeah, Utrecht might be impressive. They've already lost Sebastian Haller for next season. They've sold Ruud Boymans and Rubio Rubin in the last 2 years, so they will need to go out into the market and find another striker. It'll be interesting to see who they sort of bring in to replace Haller. And I think Ayub has had a good season. I'd like him to stay for another season. And there's a lot of teams high up in the Eredivisie interested in Amrabat, but what Ten Hag has done is sort of put together a good team. And last year they fell at the final hurdle against Heracles. 2 teams that are very desperate to get into the Europa League will play each other in the final, and I think either of them getting into the Europa League could be a very strong proposition for the Dutch team. You sort of hope that they're able to sort of deal with starting the season very early and manage to getting through the qualifier phase, as they'd have more experience with that, and they sort of where they struggle sort of after the qualifier phase, the group stage, but they've got a squad with a lot of experience, and you just hope that battery that they had against Leon really wakes them up. But it will be a very interesting final with a lot of good players. And Heerenveen also played a 16-year-old named Kik Perry, who is eligible to play for Netherlands and the United States. And he was very impressive. He was very impressive with the ball at his feet, very confident, and just another centre back that Heerenveen are producing off the production line after Kawelu, Sid used Van Aken and players like that. So very, very it's a very interesting Europa League playoff.
Yeah, the point about Erik ten Hag is a good one. I want to see him do well in Europe and lead a team to do well there as well. I think he's very good at, I say it in the past, he's very good at squeezing out all the best quality from his players, especially the back four. They're not made of quality players, but he just gets the best out of them, and I think he can do that again in Europe and take the team up another level and replace players like Haller, who are going to have good futures.
I think with the second leg being in Utrecht, I think that will also be decisive. I think Utrecht are definitely favourites, and I think whoever does go through to the qualifying round of the Europa League will put in a good performance, and hopefully we'll see another Dutch side along with PSV in the group stages.